Hello, everybody. Recording live from somewhere. Well, I have a dream. My poor little children one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin. I have a dream. I will move it. We make them. Move it. Move it. Move it. We'll fight in France. We'll fight on the beaches. We shall never surrender. We'll never surrender.
I saw the look in his eyes. This guy's crazy. I have a microphone.
So you will listen to every damn word I have to say!
Ladies and gentlemen, put our hands together for
Damn. Hi. Damn. Hi.
And we're back. Not by so much popular demand, but we are back. Thanks for tuning in again if you are. If you've not heard of us before, then this should be interesting.
Hi guys.
Hi guys.
Hi guys. How's your week been, mate? How's it going?
I'm alright, I'm not too bad, man. West Ham obviously control a lot of my open emotion and thought process. And we did lose this week, unsurprisingly, to Manchester City. But it's odd. Felt like a victory just because we played so well. So that kind of kept me buzzing this week. Interesting one with the Offspring over the weekend. With
The Offspring? You mean your little one?
not the band. Like I've been jamming with an American Australian pop band. They were good, like them. No, with my little one. She cracked me up this week. You ever seen Red Dwarf?
I used to love... My parents used to love Red Dwarf. My mum mainly.
It's hilarious. Absolutely hilarious. And there's a bit in there, it's an iconic scene, and you've got Lister, and he's talking to Holly the computer, and he's just finding out that everybody else who was on Red Dwarf is dead, basically, vaporised.
Yeah. I love Holly.
So like,
She's brilliant.
you already start laughing, because you know the scene. Where is everybody, Hole? Everybody's dead, Dave. What? Even so-and-so? Everybody is dead, Dave. Yeah, I mean, you can go on for ages. But
How many ways have I got to put it, Dave? Everybody's dead.
Yeah, that's exactly my point. When I'm talking to the nipper, I do feel like Holly in that sketch. She's only young, bless her, and I'm sure she'll get a lot better and understand things a lot better. But it's testing as a parent. And they do say kids ask, how many questions a day?
I don't know. I love that, though, because I think that's the brilliance of kids. You've just got to feed them. They're sponges. You've just got to feed them with information, and they pick up on everything.
I will happily answer 500 questions a day. Just not if 250 of them are on the same thing.
Everybody's dead, Dave.
Yeah, so that's been me. What about you, man? What have you been doing?
Pretty much same as you, as in work-wise, it's start of the month, so it's always busier. But outside of that, the podcast has kind of taken up quite a chunk of my life. Happily, don't get me wrong. But outside of that, basketball. I've been playing because the sun's been out, finally. And yeah, the season's getting to the good bit. So basically, it's the NBA All-Star Weekend, right?
Oh, I like that.
I've told you about this before, I know.
Yeah.
It's where, for anyone that doesn't know, it's for basically where all the best superstars come together from all the teams across the league and they play in one big match. That's the big highlight of the weekend. But they'll do like a dunk competition, a 3-point competition, where they're just basically showing off. And it's not just about the basketball either. Like when I went to New York...
With the lesbian.
When I went to New York, it was on Madison Square Garden.
Was she lesbian when you went to New York, or was that just after she...
Listen, right? It was amazing. I'm trying to sell you like the whole experience because it's like Super Bowl. Basically, it's not just about the sporting event. The halftime show, the advertising in between, all of that, it's like a big deal out there. But outside Madison Square Garden, luckily it was in New York that year, Kanye West just rocked up and did a concert out the front.
Oh, big up.
Completely like free to the crowd and everything, unannounced. And then the night after, because it goes on for a weekend, J-Lo did the same thing in Brooklyn.
Yeah, I don't care much about J-Lo, but big up Kanye, man. I know it's not everyone's cup of tea. Get that.
Yeah.
He's a bit weird, he's a bit out there.
But it's not just
I
about
don't
the
mind
event.
that.
That's what I'm saying. It's crazy. And unfortunately, I couldn't get tickets, but I was just walking up and down. Like, I can't remember what avenue it was, Fifth Avenue or whatever.
What's the best thing about New York? People go there for a lot of different reasons. Some people go for the shopping, some people go for the food. West End, I don't know, is it called West End over there? West End? I'm going to say West End.
It's
Staten Island, Wu-Tang, Tang.
You go there for the experience.
Tang.
For me,
Woo. Tang.
for me personally, I went there for the experience because you see it all. You don't realise, like when you're watching Friends, in between scenes, they'll show you a couple of shots of New York, and after you've been there, you'll be like, oh, like I remember those bits.
I like that. I like them kind of shots.
It's the experience of everything you've seen in films and TV, and that the coffee is brilliant. The food that they do that you've seen on the TV is amazing. Some of the sub sandwiches they do, for example.
Is it New York where everyone folds a pizza? You get looked on
yeah.
if you don't fold your pizza, like apparently you ain't doing it right.
That's pretty much anywhere in America. But if you go to like a pizza stand and they serve you a big ass slice, then yeah, you've got to fold it in half to be able to eat it, mate. It's crazy.
Never been. Not gonna lie, would like to go.
Yeah.
I'd like to go from a music point of view. A lot of DJs, and a lot of beats and hip hop originates out of New York.
Say that.
I'd like to experience that side.
The amount of dudes on the corners selling their CDs. I bought a couple.
Yeah, Mixtape Central, man.
I bought a couple, mate, and a couple of them were decent. There was one guy who was utter shit, but this one bloke sounded a bit like Nas, and he had that kind of flow, and with better production, you think like, yeah, this is kind of rough, raw New York rap. This is literally off the streets. You've never heard of these guys.
And this is while you was in New York for... How long did you go for? What, a week?
No, like 5 nights.
5 nights.
5 days, so like 4 nights.
Pay though, innit?
Yeah, crazy amounts of money. But then you can't help it. I went into... They don't have like JD Sports and Sports Direct and all that stuff. They've
Foot
just
Locker,
got
innit?
Foot Locker.
Yeah, Foot Locker.
Mate, I went in there and spent dough.
Obviously, spent a fair few quid on the trainer front. Look at these apps. Obviously, you guys can't know, but look at these monstrosities.
I don't know what you're talking about.
You've got to strike your plates of meat today. Look at these. These are. Imagine Timberland boots crossed between a pair of Air Jordans.
These are basically Air Force Ones in the style of Timberlands. They're fresh, man. I'll post a picture. I'll show everyone. What I'm trying to say is, it is brilliant. If I know a lot of people out there like basketball, and I've started to notice quite a lot of the younger generation holding like a basketball or playing when they're out and about. But if you're looking to see what it's like, this is the weekend to do it. It's just a showcase. It's brilliant. But yeah, as you can tell, that's got me really excited this weekend outside of all this stuff.
Good. It's not overly my bag, but I have watched it in the past. I used to watch it back in the day when it's Legends. Pippen, Jordan.
Yeah, man, the balls.
All that good stuff.
But yeah, again, if you've had an inkling into it or have ever liked it, this is the time to watch
Have a butchers.
Yeah, have a butchers.
Well, second recording.
Yeah,
we have had some feedback from all 4 people that watched the first episode.
Yeah, thank you guys. Cheers, Mum, Dad, Nan, Grandad.
Thank you very much. We really do appreciate it. We are aware that we aren't exactly laser accurate with some of our factual information, and we try to be where possible. We have had a couple of things brought to our attention that perhaps maybe we don't know the royal structure of past kings and queens as well as other people.
Well, I did look up some of the things that were said, mainly by me, granted. Just to kind of fact check myself. But there is one thing, right? My mate is a very close friend. Told him to watch it today. Kind of forced it on him. I wanted his opinion, right? And he texted me a couple of hours later and just went, one word, right? Crespo.
Oh, Crespo. That's his fucking name, isn't it? That's the geezer's name from last week.
Striker.
Oh
yeah,
God.
We were talking about it last week with the final against Liverpool. And you even said it began with a C, but it just cracked me up. He didn't give me any opinion, just said one word.
That's kind of annoyed me a little bit because I purposely did not Google that this week. I wanted it to come natural back to me. Like at some point, just creep into a random thought, and I'll be like, that was the answer. But now I know. Crespo.
I did have to fact check myself as well. We talked about the Mars rover.
Fact check.
Oh. We talked about the Mars rover, and I called it, I can't remember, it began with a P, but the actual name for it is Perseverance. So just to check myself on that one, because I got all excited and had a little look into it and couldn't even remember the name right. So that's me calling myself out.
I got called out on one, sitting quiet in the corner. I got called out. So I threw a few stats the other day out about travel to Mars, Moon,
space,
Saturn,
yeah,
etc.
the
I asked Mikey, didn't I? So I said, "Do you know your galactic travel?"
I did alright. I got what? I said 120 and it was 148 million miles or something.
Well, eagle-eyed viewer pointed out that I was referencing things in miles when obviously, in fact, it's kilometres. So there's me. I'm corrected as well.
Does
I'm
that
not.
make
I'm not
much
immune.
of a difference? Is that longer or shorter?
I'm not immune. None of us are immune. I'll baseline that though, and just say if you're coming to us for your factual, accurate information in life, then we are not your role models.
Yeah, you should probably check the news. We might bring up points that you can have a look at that are quite funny or interesting, but yeah, don't trust us for statistics.
You notice that right now, genuinely, people. Michael and I, we task each other in the week and we say, go away, have a look at a couple of little bits and pieces, bring it to the table. I don't know what he's going to bring up today. He doesn't know what I'm going to bring up today. So when we do announce these subjects to each other, these are genuinely, we try to keep it as fresh as possible. So this week, these are a few bits I've noticed. And I'll be interested to see if you've noticed or spotted the same kind of things that I have. As a Japanese fella, multi-billionaire.
There's a few of them.
Yeah, true. What, Japanese or billionaires?
Japanese billionaires.
Yeah,
some of them do well.
Probably not wrong. Well, this geezer's mad. He's got loads of money. He's very interested in outer space, and he wants to travel around the moon. He's offering 8 places for people to actually travel to the moon.
Travel to landing on the moon?
No, I think it's round. I don't think they're going to land down. That's a bit expensive. You got to pay drop-off fees like airport tax.
So it's like a cruise that you don't get to get off at the
Essentially.
port. You just, rather than a boat, you're in a spaceship. So it's like sitting on a plane, basically, a very high-pressured plane with no clouds to look at. I mean, that would be a great sight.
Just planets, though. You can look at a few planets. Don't want that.
I'm downplaying it on purpose, but actually, when you think about it, imagine seeing those planets in the distance and just the amount of stars with no light pollution around you whatsoever. You can physically see black and white sparkling stars.
Yeah, you would.
Do you reckon you could see the Milky Way? Surely.
Well, I don't know. I don't know how far and where things are set up in the sky, man. I don't want to commit to anything on that one.
I know what I'm doing tonight. Looking up astronaut stories of being able to see different things out the window and stuff.
It sounds better than what the reality of that is, right? So you think you're going on a tour around Mars. Lovely, lovely. You're not even stopping. I think that's been mentioned before by another comedian somewhere. You're not even stopping. You're just going on a tour, coming back home again. How long do you think that flight's going to be?
Well, that's a point, because if it's more than a couple of days, that's no longer a flight, is it? That's like a holiday. Like I said, a cruise. That's more a holiday stuck in one place.
That's not a holiday, that's a torture session.
Wait, you're with 8 different people and this billionaire that's basically showing off because he's bought you a ticket.
Yeah, why is that? Why not take 8 of your friends? Imagine being his mate. And he's not taking you on a trip around the moon. You better fucking wind it in.
For 30 years.
Wind it in.
I'm the one who told you the moon looked great. Why are you not taking me?
Unbelievable. I once went on an honeymoon. Well, I say I'm not I once went on an honeymoon. I went on an honeymoon once.
You mean your honeymoon?
No, that's not even working, is it? When I went on my honeymoon.
There you go, yep.
I was on a flight and it was 12 hours.
Oh, I did that, yeah. I've done that
and that's
twice.
12 hours straight. I mean, hungover from the night before, whatever. But it was a 12-hour straight flight. By the time I got off that flight, I felt like a zombie. I was all kinds of out of whack.
Jet lag is real.
3 days. More than the hangover the day before, I think. But it took me a good 2-3 days to get anywhere near to functioning correctly again. How long is it going to take if you're cooped up on the moon? I got to have a little splash about on the beach. Don't get me wrong, stretch my legs. None of that. Wallop straight round the back, home straight.
It's not even like that's going to be killer after, but you think that's just by going too high up in the sky for too long and kind of crossing time zones. There's a whole mechanics behind why you feel crap with jet lag. But imagine going outside the ozone layer. That's not just a long haul flight. Like, you've gone to a place where you can't breathe unless, I know you can't do that at a certain height, but your head will explode if they open a window.
Here's one for you. Apparently, if you get a car and drive it vertically up off the surface of the Earth at 60 miles an hour, you'll hit what is technically known as outer space in 24 hours.
So it's 24. Oh no!
Well, if you can do it maths, it'd be 24 times 60. You'll hit what is known as that layer.
That's mental. That's not that far. How far? There's places in America. If you was driving state to state, how far would you get? Say from Texas, like the very southern. I don't know whether it's the extreme southern state, but very south of the North America. How long would it take to drive in a straight line north for 24 hours?
I think that's the purpose of that stat being outlined. Just to show you in relative distance how near.
Far.
Yeah, I think that's the purpose of that information. So while we are on the subject of space, there's a fella, a chap who's he's based in England, works for NASA. He's called Professor Sanjeev Gupta.
Okay, yeah.
All right. And obviously, people can't travel international. It's all shut down, COVID related.
Right.
But this fella was important member. He's a professor of geology.
Is he one of your key workers that you mentioned?
No, he's not a key worker. This geezer's next level. He's not a key worker.
Okay.
It's not Errol. This is Sanjeev. And he's very key to what NASA are doing. He's so key that they've hooked him up in England. He's moved away from his family, bless him. He didn't want to keep his family up all hours of the week.
Right.
Or all hours of the day over the course of the weeks. So he rented a flat in Lewisham, Bub and Hairdressers, and he kitted it out with all kinds of NASA computers, etc., whatever. And he's basically he's helping to control the rover that's up there.
I bet that was a big claim bill. When he's like putting in his bill to NASA of, right, I need this much for my little office.
Yeah, offset that against your tax. I mean, what's that? I don't know how he's controlling it.
But that's mental. He's sitting in
What do you reckon
above a
they
high
do?
street. That's not even. He's in his house. Like you'd think a gated community kind of thing. I don't know why you just naturally assume that it's going to be a nice residential area.
You're a professor. You can have a couple of quid.
Well, I mean, he's in Lewisham. Don't get me wrong, but he's above a high street, operating a rover, and that's Flight Simulator 5.0.
Yeah, that is. I mean, this is what how is he controlling it? Is he sitting there with literally like?
Please tell me they give him a PlayStation or
An
Xbox
controller. That's dangerous, right? Because you get batteries. I don't know about. I get batteries. Imagine being halfway through, just like landing
out
of Mars, and the batteries start cutting out.
One of the buttons are stuck, and it's the brakes, and you're just literally doing a 360 around Mars constantly.
It'd be like it blips out on screen, and you get smashed across the other side of the screen by some monster you was just about to hit because your batteries are cut out.
Well, I mean, at least you discovered something.
Right, he would get dropped from the squad quick.
Just feel like I've just got to keep reviving this guy. This is bullshit. Sort your controller out, man. Where's your mic?
So that's what I've seen this week. Fairly highbrow, fairly good information. What you see, Mike?
I've got something. I've got something that will keep you chuckling. Anal COVID test for foreigners.
What?
This is in China. Basically, there's like a big international kickoff, right? Because in China, they're using anal COVID swab test for foreigners. Not for their own people. For Chinese people that are thinking, oh, maybe I've got COVID and need to go down and get a test. No. They're fine. They get the normal one down the throat and up the nose.
So
right?
this is a conscious decision. They're saying, like, literally, if you're not Chinese, you're getting one up the bum.
But I don't know why they're not exactly announcing it that way. But that's what's happening.
I don't think it's up the bum, to be fair. I think the fact they're just shoving them
now,
down their
I've
throat.
seen it. It was either Sky News, BBC News, something like that. It's a reliable source, right?
Well,
but
there's one of lesser two evils in there. If they're taking these swabs and sticking them up their bums when they don't need to, that's a bit much. But if they're just normal ones and they're chucking them down their throat, then...
So basically, if you're not from China, but you live in China, and you'd like to know if you have COVID, bend over and take it, and then they'll tell you.
Apparently so.
What else have I seen Well, you know that I am an absolute proper fanboy over Eminem, right?
Well, who's not, man? Who's not?
Yeah, but I feel like people my age... I'm 31, so when...
You do love him. If I look at you right now, you're basically dressed as Eminem. You got your cap on, your white cap on, you got some dark clothing on, you got that new beard thing going on that he's got.
No, his one looks lasered in. This is real. But Anyway, right, I love Eminem, but I think it's an age thing where when I was 10, 11, I think the Marshall Mathers LP come out. So you're hearing songs like Kill You and Real Slim Shady.
Who's playing that to you when you're 10 years old?
Oh, mate, my parents took it off me. They literally took the CD off me, and it was in the days where a computer could, like, burn a CD. Just before it could burn DVDs, right? That's how far back I'm going. And we literally burnt the CD off my mate, so I had it again within a week of my parents taking it off me, and they kind of gave up after so many times.
Was that the first swear words you heard?
First
In
swear,
music?
no, not that I heard, but the first swear words that I was like playing out loud. But I used to censor myself. I'd remember all the raps and I'd censor those bits, so I'd just mute myself as I was kind of rapping along with it. Then they couldn't tell me off, if you know what I mean. But
Makes sense.
I think everyone my age would feel that way, because that's when he came about, when we first started to get into music that wasn't forced upon us from radio and stuff like that. And he's just hitting records left, right and centre. This week, just gone, he has hit 1 billion streams on Spotify for a song that he's not even released as a single.
Jesus.
It's Till I Collapse.
Yeah, I don't know that.
You will know it if you hear it. So it's like a very military song. In the background, it's like, go left, right, left. It's very aggressive, but basically...
How does one even get to 1 billion streams on a song that's never been released?
Well, it's
How does that
number
happen?
one song for workouts. So everyone who goes to the gym, this, that, the other, it's like number one most downloaded song for motivation to work out to.
That's a lot of people that go to the gym, though, isn't it? 1 billion?
Mate,
and Eminem fans?
I know a PT, and funny enough, he is my age, but he said straight away, he was like, yep, that's on my playlist. I told him about another Eminem song, actually, a couple of weeks ago that he hadn't heard of that was, like, really motivational. And basically, if you work out, listen to Eminem. But that's crazy. 1 billion streams on Spotify. 1 billion people across the world have heard that song, and you never released it. It's an album track. It's off the Eminem show.
That is a crazy quirk of that statistic that it's never been released. I mean, Eminem's massive. He's one of the biggest artists on the planet. You go on YouTube, any one of his singles has probably racked up near to 1 billion hits on YouTube.
No, it's his second one. It's his,
Okay, well,
it's only his
they're
second
probably in
song
the
to go
750 mil mark. Do you know what I mean? We're not talking about,
Oh, yeah.
you know, you and I, we've had 5 plays overnight and we're fairly
That was
happy
us.
with ourselves.
Yeah.
This is Eminem and he's getting 750 mils a video. That's a
Yeah.
big amount of exposure. So I guess that's how you get a song that's never been released that does get a billion hits.
It's crazy. Right, I'll put this to you, right? Because I was thinking this as well. Imagine not one of these questions that where you go, oh, who's the best ever, right? Because you can never really compare people, so I know it's difficult.
Yeah.
But if you had every single artist that ever released records, or say hit so many sales, say 500,000 sales, right? If they had the same platforms they did now, as in
Yeah.
social media,
Yeah,
as in the record labels, advertising, marketing, who do you think would come out on top? Who do you think would be number one property? So at the minute you've got kind of like, well, your Justin Bieber's happened.
You'd have to be woke. As much as I hate that word and that terminology, and I know you and I are, you know, not on footage, it annoys us and we speak a lot about it, but it'd have to be someone who's woke, because that's your exposure, that's your audience at the moment. They're the
make you
people that
popular,
are
yeah.
going to be active in any way, shape or form online.
Okay, so name me some people that are better. So you can go back, right, to say John Lennon. That's woke. That's woke in one human being, isn't
Could
it?
you imagine having John Lennon on your WhatsApp every 10 seconds? Save the vegans, save the whales, save the fur trade.
On your
All right,
Twitter.
John, Jesus, bruv, that's your 20th message of the day. It's only like 10:30.
What are you doing about it? You're tweeting about it all day.
Block.
Mute, at least.
Yeah, he'd be muted.
It's John Lennon. You can't block him.
He would be muted. Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, you see them posts, don't you? What would celebrities do? But you're right. It could completely and utterly change that landscape.
No, so my question to you is, if they all existed now, right, and they was as popular in these times as they were in their own generation, so you've got the Beatles were as big as they were now.
Well, the ugly ones will go straight away.
That's true. As a society, we've probably got more what's it called?
People just won't have it. You got to have the whole package. You got to have absolutely everything, and it can get you in the studio. If you're lucky enough, you can sing and you're golden. But it'll get you in the studio. It'll tart your voice up. But you just need to look good.
Yeah, but then you miss out on people like Eric Clapton.
Oh, I can't really think off the top of my head of. I don't want to be like overly facetious towards anyone, but
I'm not saying he's ugly, sorry, but he's not got a TV face, is he? He's always got a stubble on. He's always got a normal kind of haircut, nothing special.
Well, to be fair,
He's just a genius with a guitar.
the Beatles weren't the best looking of bands.
No, they weren't. They had bowl cuts.
Oh, their hair was all right. I've had a couple of barnets like that, but I mean, generally facially speaking, I mean, I know I could knock over a couple of traffic cones if I turned sideways with my nose, but look at Ringo's conch. Jesus Christ, man. You wouldn't get away with that now. If you release somebody now as a member of a band, there'd be airbrushing that, there'd be makeup in that, contour. You know what I mean?
But then that probably happened back then as well, because you think George Harrison, no one really heard of him, and he weren't the prettiest one in the band. Ringo Starr stood out because he was a banging drummer.
Yeah.
That kind of got him where he was. And the two pretty boys at the front, well, there you go. They were two pretty boys.
Songwriters' personalities of it. But you are right. Like Elvis would kill it.
Oh, I didn't even think of
Elvis
him.
would absolutely own.
See, I was thinking like Bob Marley.
So, yeah, Bob, yeah, why not? I saw this week that the last member of the Wailers died.
Oh, yeah, I caught that as
Bunny
well.
Wailer.
It broke your heart a little bit, didn't it, to know that it's all gone now?
Oh, they've sown the seeds. They're strong in their genre. But
Oh, yeah. Mate, Marley's kids as well. Damian Marley is a demon. That Road to Zion with Nas is just up there with one of the best
I get a
tracks.
little bit confused because there is a couple of them, innit?
Yeah.
And
there's like four or
there's
five.
one's a bit like reggae heavy, another one that likes to hook up with her R&B style and stuff. And there's been, what's the one like, out in the street, they call it murder.
That's Damian
that's a
Marley.
banger. Yeah, I like that
Jamrock.
geezer. That's a banger.
But he does that Road to Zion with Nas.
Stephen Marley's the more reggae dude, is he?
I think so. He tends to do more live lounges and stuff. I'm not sure of his name, but I know who you're talking about. I think he's the older one. He tends to do more live lounge kind of stuff where it's just acoustic and they're jamming in a session.
But they still like carry that reggae vibe.
They still carry Bob.
persona.
Yeah, his little growl in his voice.
Persona.
And it's amazing.
He'd have been like an activist nowadays, man. I know you got all Black Lives Matter platforms and all that kind of stuff. I reckon Bob, I don't know how old he would be now.
But you got to think of the people they'd be able to mix with.
He'd be behind that, I can imagine. He must have faced a lot of prejudice in his life, breaking out.
Well, the things he wrote about back then were very much Black Lives Matter, but
Yeah, I suppose they were.
in his own country.
Yeah.
It was very much
oppression.
about race and
Oppression.
coming from slavery and things like that. But you think now you've got, well, again, going back to basketball, you've got NBA teams refusing to play in different games because of injustices in local towns. So the Milwaukee Bucks were the first ones to say, we're not going to play this game because there was a cop shooting on a black person in America in a local town to Milwaukee, right?
Yeah.
And then the whole league did it, which I thought was brilliant. And it kind of, if you've got that kind of platform again, kind of use it. But
Hotbed, isn't it, though? Hotbed of political isms.
At the same time, you've got Bob Marley releasing records about Black Lives Matter. Whilst that's going on, that's what I'm saying. Bring these into now. That's going on right now.
It's knowing your platform.
John
isn't
Lennon's
it?
telling you love and peace.
Knowing your audience.
Bob Marley's sitting there telling you about Black Lives Matter. Lauryn Hill's really going on about him, probably a bit racist towards the other way.
Such a shame because they were good. And she was great.
Oh, yeah. But, so everyone's in their prime. Look, go back. Freddie Mercury, he's in his prime.
Oh.
At the same time as John Lennon, Bob Marley, Elvis.
How many times, I don't know how long the ban is, but how many times would you see Freddie Mercury coming back onto Twitter going, oh, just got out of Twitter jail, just got out of Facebook jail.
Yeah, innit?
He would be rascal, mate.
Sorry, he'd been blocked for the last 2 days.
Yeah, sorry, been blocked. He would be rascal. If he was clever enough, which I guess he was, the man was a genius on many levels, but you'd get your apps and you'd line them up. You'd get banned on one week, go on to your next one the following week, and just do a little rotation so you can always just start be a bit naughty online.
What do you reckon the main message would be? If you had all these people throwing these messages out there, and very strong, influential people, everyone we've named, like John Lennon with End War, like peace and love and everything. And then you've got Freddie Mercury, who would hugely be a face of LGBTQ+, I think it is now.
Yeah, it'd be like the Weller to the
It'd just be the
mod
face of
fathers.
it, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
You'd have Bob Marley, but like well up there with Black Lives Matter. Elvis. I don't know what he'd be
Bit of both.
representing. He'd just be cool.
bit of
He'd be the
both.
Bieber.
It'd be old though.
But what would society be like if you had all these messages coming at you? Which I guess you kind of do, but with all these such influential people and the music that you're listening to from these geniuses, it'd be mental.
Well, we never know. We can't compare it.
Who'd be number one at Christmas if everyone was alive? That's my question to you.
I reckon Bowie. Bowie would be in there. He loves a. He did a Christmas song, Drummer Boy.
The one with Bing Crosby
It's
was
cracker,
brilliant.
absolute cracker. It'd be Bowie. Well, actually, would it be Bowie? Because he had the chance at the platforms. He wasn't that long ago he died. God bless him. Rest his soul.
Yeah, but he was older. I'm talking about them being in their prime. So catch Bowie at 25.
Bowie was always in his prime. The man was never out of his prime.
Yeah, but at 70,
No, he was.
He
He clearly had
he
some
didn't
peak
get to
years.
catch up with social media. If he grew up with Twitter and
he clearly
Facebook,
had
and all that.
peak years. Americana period for me, for any Bowie fans that are listening. I didn't mind the Ziggy Stardust era, but Americana a little bit later.
And thank you for the updates for all the over 50s out there, Joe. Much appreciated.
Fuck yeah.
Now, moving on to debate point, right? Do you know what? I've had a change of heart. We're going with the suggestion because I quite like it.
Good, man.
I quite like it, right? And I think it's good to get something that we haven't thought of because then you can really get into it, right? The smack. This is what they've actually titled it.
Yeah, I like this.
It's called the smack. Right?
I like this.
So I'll read it out exactly how it's written. Knowing you two are from a generation of getting a slap or sore ass as a way of discipline, where do you stand on kids nowadays getting a smack? Now, let's just, from the offset, let's just say, so you do have a child
Yes.
and they are, say, toddler age?
They are
A toddler.
toddler.
Yes. I don't have children.
No.
My kind of knowledge of children is my friends have kids and I run a kids football team, but they're older, so they're
But
like
you-
11, 12 years old.
You have been in and around children and could comment on,
Yeah.
if called upon, you could
Let's
comment.
put it this way. If I'm going to comment, right, it's on what I've seen in the news and the media of like actual parents and their opinions, because some of them are appalling. But before we go into that, the actual question itself is, where do you stand on kids nowadays getting a smack? I'll let you go first.
Oh man, you have to. There's levels. You got to remember that I'm of that era. It was briefly touched on last week when we had headmasters beating up kids on the classroom.
Because he's in the classroom.
Right, I'm going to compose myself for this because I don't want to get this all kinds of out of sorts.
This is really controversial, actually, now I think of it.
Now, I come from an era where discipline was key. Now, I'm not saying I was disciplined. I'm just saying I come from an era where discipline was key. People didn't have access to so much information beyond their own
Let's
reach.
just say it was more accepted to hit your kids when you was a kid.
All right, no, I'll call it, yeah.
Yeah.
People bash their kids about a little bit more
When you was a
when
child.
I was a kid,
Yeah.
but I wasn't. And I'm not saying that every
No,
kid was.
no.
You can go back more generations, man. I watch enough American documentaries, and every kid that ends up in prison is like, oh yeah, me and my dad, we used to go at it like back in the day.
Well, see old Cockney get a clip round the ear and smack round the back of the legs and this.
Yeah,
that,
sit
the
around
other.
here.
Yeah.
Like nothing wrong with that. I'm not saying go out there and start smashing your kids up to make them conform to how you want to make it be, but
Good.
discipline is discipline. If you've got a kid and he's crawling towards a plug socket, it's got a fork in its hand, right?
Okay.
It jams that fork into that plug socket. If it's lucky enough to survive that incident, what are you going to do after? You're going to turn around to that kid calmly and go, tell you what, Dave, probably shouldn't have done that.
Are you naming your kid Dave?
Dave, probably shouldn't have done that. All right, mummy. Yeah, glad to be alive. Won't do that again. Or are you going to give him a little bit of a slap and say, Dave, don't be silly. Don't do that again.
I love the fact the kid's name's Dave.
Keeps it simple. Now, I'm not saying go out there and belt your kid. I'm just saying sometimes it sends a message home.
Well, it's like basic. They do it with animals as well, don't they? Say like with a dog when they're training them, they might not. I'm not saying slap them about or anything, but they use shock collars and things like that, and it shows it works.
I don't think you can do that on humans.
No, you can't get shock collars for babies.
I don't think there's
Where they
legal,
say a
can you?
good business is a gap in the market.
Jesus, no, I'm not on board with that.
You might have to turn the voltage down a bit.
Drop me out, brother. I'm not on that.
but yeah, no, I get it. What you're trying to say is basically there's certain things just to make them aware. Oi, you don't do that.
There's human reaction as well.
Yeah.
Sometimes if people are lashing out, it does come from a human point of view. Now, I'm not strictly, as much as I jest, I'm not strictly going to turn around and say I'm going to bring my child up in a no physical discipline environment or a non-physical discipline. And I know some people freak out a little bit about that description, physical discipline, but I'm not talking about grabbing
you never
people.
leave a bruise or a mark of any form, no.
No, do it through a pillow, doesn't leave a bruise. I jest. Now, I have only once. I mean, as we say, my child's a toddler. You allow their actions and capabilities. They're children. Only once has she ever been tapped or clipped. And we was there. We was having a little rumble on the floor, whatever. And now sort of that touched a little bit too long. And we were doing something. She lashed out, and she just grabbed with all her hand strength. Like she managed to grip all round one of my eyeballs. Oh. And as she dug her hand in, she... Oh. Do you know what I mean? And it hurt. And it hurt.
That sounds like a Saw movie.
It hurt. And at that time, we was really starting to get a little bit cross with her because she was in a bit of a bitey stage. She was being a little bit rebellious. And we thought she was at a stage where she really should know the difference between play hurting and vicious hurting. Yeah. And in that split second, as it happened, it hurt. As I say, she grabbed my eyeball, and all I did is I grabbed the wrist, I turned it over, hand pointed down, and I just gave her a little, like...
On the back of the hand.
On the back of the hand. And the look in her eye, obviously, she's never, ever experienced anything like that. And it done the job, and, you know, I did the right thing after. Baby, you're all right. It's okay. This is the reason why this has just happened. Yeah. But in that split heat of the moment, it was a shock to her.
Yeah, so it's memorable.
And that's, yeah. And like you was talking about when you was comparing human children to dogs, it's the shock therapy. I'm not talking about physically shocking.
Hold on, I wasn't comparing them.
You can mentally shock people.
You can, yeah. You can leave like a mental scar, but I'm not saying what you've done is a mental scar whatsoever. That's like a reminder because it's soft.
She ain't done it since?
Well, yeah, but that's the wrong way to word it as in a mental scar, but it's a memory that will come back of, well, last time that I nearly went to do that, I was told not to.
Reference point.
Yeah, exactly. And throughout growing up, you don't remember the thoughts and feelings you had at 2, 3 years old, whatever. It just comes back to you as in, oh, I shouldn't do that. Right or wrong, and it's a conscious kind of thing. You learn that as you get older. And I suppose that is instilling that in your children, as in, that's right or wrong. And that's how you determine what's really, really wrong. As in, you should not do that.
Well, there was a point where it was taken out of your hands. As a parent, that decision of whether something's right or wrong literally got taken out of your hands. It became, I don't know what kind of criminal offence again. We'll maybe we'll check the facts on this one. It's kind of popped up, but there, you know, I'm sure it's become some kind of criminal offence to actually physically attack not attack, but
harm.
Yeah, what would have been a clip round here back in the day.
Yeah.
Is now a kid could be like, you know, I've just been battered.
Mate, when I started work in one company, one of my managers, she was brilliant. Honestly, one of the best human beings I've ever met. She was brilliant. But she used to slap me around the back of the head. Like, I don't know if you've seen NCIS, you know, Gibbs, the main guy in there.
Yeah.
Basically, he tells one of these guys off constantly, and he just gives him a slap around the back of the head. He doesn't say any words. You just get the message. Like, oh, shouldn't do that, right?
For a very, very brief period in our lives, I was actually Michael's manager in a work situation.
Oh, yeah.
I can very much understand why somebody might want to give you a toe punt to the face.
Whoa,
that's a grievance right there. That was a Freudian slip. I mean, it's a clip round here.
But yeah, I don't know. It depends on levels because we have to be careful when we're talking about this in a sense of we're talking about clips of like back of the legs, back of the head, clip around the ear, something like that. There's a lot worse cases out there in the world. That's why laws have to be put in place. Yeah,
but I don't think we're talking about that. I think we're talking about that thing that was taken away. When was the last time it became punishable for a copper to turn around and, as we've mentioned, give a kid a clip round the ear or grab a kid.
Yeah.
When
yeah.
did that happen?
Well, I suppose when you say woke, when kids started becoming woke on what a copper can and can't do. So if you're a PCSO, if you're like a community support officer, they used to be called, there's certain things they can and can't do. They can't detain you, technically, so they can't really lay hands on you. And then kids start finding that stuff out and abuse it.
Information generation.
Well, yeah.
These kids have got more access to information. How much information did these geezers have to learn to pass them PCO tests? How much access to information could them kids pull up in 3 seconds that will tell them why they ain't got to stand there on that street corner?
That is 100% true. But going back to the original thing of smacking kids, basically, for discipline, I think it depends on levels. Because you've got to think there's a lot of, I don't want to stereotype, but there's a lot of parents, I'm not going to say a gender, but that will go out, maybe have a drinking problem and take it out on their children.
I think that's
someone that's disgusting.
Different kettle of fish. What's the opposite then? So if you're not trying to discipline your kid through physicalness, because people will be very much dead against that, what's the opposite way of disciplining a child? How would you approach that? But if someone who hasn't got a child, how would you approach that?
So if basically there was a law to say you cannot intentionally physically harm your child. That's it.
No, that's not what I mean. I mean, if that didn't exist as an option, wasn't even on the table, no one had ever thought of linking that behaviour.
See,
how would you control and teach behaviour to a child?
I've always been quite good with my mates' kids in the sense of talking to them like human beings. I don't talk to them like they're children. So one of my friends is very good by the way they just explain things. Like, they will just say things to him like, I mean, how do you think he was going to get away with that, seriously? And it makes them turn around and think to themselves, actually, that was stupid. That was quite obvious that I was lying to do something, or I did something wrong and I know I was doing something wrong, and that was a weak get-out clause, basically. And that's probably how I'd deal with my kids. I'd like to think, anyway.
Love that. I mean, if more people took that approach, do you think we'd see a different approach in society now? Not approach in society. I would pinpoint something back to when there was that crossover or that law that came in about not being able to discipline people in the same way that you were allowed to do before, and that included the police force. So there was a definite turn on our streets. Look at the city, man. There's kids getting stabbed up every other day for what seems to be nothing.
But now you're talking older children, and that's going into how much does a parent have influence over their kids after a certain age. Because I fully believe, and again, I haven't got children, but I fully believe from, I'd go late school, so maybe say 15, 16, these kids now, they're not educated by their parents on life. They're educated by their surroundings. They're educated by the people in their life that aren't family. They choose that other path naturally. They say that teenagers rebel. It's more so that they just choose a different path, I think.
I mean, that sounds and almost feels like a generalisation and a sweeping statement, but I struggle to disagree, if I'm being honest.
I think it's true, and it's not. Maybe the age, say, if you had a barrier there, maybe that has got lower over time. But even if you go back to, say, 1950s, the kids that were raised there, they'd get to a certain age. Granted, they'd get married and move out by the time they was 18 to 20.
Still be wrong, and so.
But that's it. That's their life. Then they choose the life that they live by their surroundings, by the friends that they have, by the work that they're in, the environments that they put themselves in. Nowadays, it just happens a lot younger, and especially with social media, as we've mentioned, now that's come around, the exposure on that to these kids. And even going back to the main point about smacking kids, if they know that it's wrong for you to do it, they're going to make a bigger deal out of it. So you say about how does that affect society, not only does it maybe raise kids differently because they're not smacked as a kid, they're also going to know their rights.
Come on, you must have turned around to your parents at some point in your life and I'm calling Childline.
No, there was one point where I turned around and I was like, I'm a certain age, like, you can't ground me. And then I just kind of got my...
No, it's normally when you're bigger than the parent.
Yeah. I was like over 6 foot, so I felt secure in myself to be like, I can walk out. That's okay.
I mean, I shot up early doors. I think 14. I think I was like 6 foot at 14, or getting there on the way. Me ma, bless her. She's not 6 foot. She's 5 something or other. And I think I gave her a bit of fucking waffle in the front room one day. Larged it out. I'm bigger than you. Can't tell me what to do. She walloped me about 18 foot across the fucking front room.
Yeah, it did. But how old was you then, roughly?
14s. Didn't try that again.
So, going back to the main point, what's the age bracket here? Because
for smacking,
yeah, if they're over 6 foot and they start giving it, they probably deserve it.
I think if you deserve a slap, you deserve a slap. And I'm not necessarily talking about whether this is disciplining your child.
Yeah, but at 14, you're a child.
I'm just talking about if you're being a prick.
Exactly.
You probably deserve a slap.
Okay, so now quickly, we're going from 14, put that down to 5 years old. Whoa. He don't really deserve a slap just for giving it, does he? That's cheeky. And in fact, most of the time, that's quite funny.
Who's slapping 5-year-olds?
Well, this is the point. Is it right to discipline your children? Define discipline, define smack, and define child, because if you was like...
All right, let's wrap this up. So, same as we did last week, let's put a little bit of a criteria on it, and let's wrap it.
Okay.
So...
There's boundaries. We can say there's boundaries.
Well, let's do a quick flowchart. Is it A, okay to slap your child if they are being a prick? If they are... Well, sorry, I didn't say A. A, being a prick.
All right.
B, about to endanger their life. Or C, just getting on your nerves.
It feels like he wants to be a millionaire.
Question 2. Can you lock a child in their bedroom for more than 24 hours legally? No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding, man. It's down to you guys. It's out there. It's your own opinion. We've debated it. I'm not sure anyone will really know the difference it's really made.
I'm going to say it depends on size. If they're 6 foot and they're giving it, they know what they're doing. If they're young and probably finding their boundaries, then yeah, they probably don't deserve it.
I'm absolutely going to flip that script and say it's probably better off to do it early doors. Waste of time if they're older. You're only going to get lumped.
Okay. Random fact. Right. Now, what we did previously, last week we come up with, what was it, 2 or 3 each, and we was like, what one should we use? Try and get a good one out of it. This week I'm going to flip the script. So we've got 3 each written down, and I haven't got a clue what you've got, and you haven't got a clue what I've got. So I'm going to completely flip it, and I want you to throw out your 3.
Right.
Go on. 3.
I've had a little look this week. I've tried to keep it random. I like this feature last week, so I have tried to make it as random as I can. Because I'm very aware that, we can all press Google and go out there and look at randomfact.com. Please don't, because this is basically most of my content.
Yeah, don't kill the show.
But you can all do that. So here's one I found.
Go on.
Blood donors in Sweden get a text when their blood's been administered. That's pretty mad, isn't it?
Oh.
So you're hey bro, your blood's been injected into this.
Well done.
Sven geezer over here. He's about to die, but you just saved his life because you donated a pint of blood. So
that's a text going, well, we used it. Thanks. Someone's very grateful that you did that. Yeah, I do like that. It's a bit weird to mix that emotion of gratitude with a text message.
Be a bit different in the UK, wouldn't it?
Yeah, really.
You'd get an SMS. Hey Tracy, your blood's just been used to treat someone with a gonorrhea.
Do you need a blood transplant for that?
I don't know, bro. I've never been in there.
Yeah, same, but that sounds... No wonder. That sounds painful, man.
There's many a virus you can catch, apparently.
Okay.
You're more likely, according to the nerds, and the nerds crunch these numbers, according to the nerds, you are more likely to catch a computer virus on a religious website than if it was a porn website.
I really don't know where to start with that. That's such a conscious of heart.
I'm not providing any kind of opinion on people that practice religion.
No pun intended, but it's funny that they come hand in hand.
Another one would have been people who are currently alive make up approximately 7% of people who have ever lived.
Wait, what? Whoa.
Ever lived.
7% of people have... So,
And we're overrun now, aren't we? They say the world's overpopulated or whatever many, 50-odd billion.
so 7% of people that have ever lived on Earth are alive today, basically.
Yeah.
I like that.
I'll tell you what, I'll give you another one.
Go on.
More than 52% of the world's population at the moment are under 30 years old.
That puts me and you over... Wait, so over half of the world
I'm not in that
are
age
under
category.
30? I'm not anymore.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. 52% of the world's
Over
population.
half the world
And
are under 30.
that's a little bit strange because a stat I've heard over the years is that the population's getting older. People are living longer. We're
yeah.
finding cures for shits that they didn't have like
But
20
then
years ago.
again, are people having more kids nowadays? So that makes up more of the population as
Now that'd be
children.
volume. This is average age.
You got any more for me?
Well, this is the one I settled on, and I read this and I thought this is
one you was going to fight your case for, yeah?
it tickled me, and it's like we live in a very different age, and if we're going to get accused of anything, perhaps we might get accused this week of shining a light a little bit to space, astrology, that kind of place. But my final fact is I'm going back to the moon landings.
Okay.
I'm going back. It's been a good source of information this week. So you had all the fellas that went up there.
Are we talking the first ever moon landing?
Yeah, the big one, the Hollywood produced one.
The one where, I think
Spielberg
last
one.
week you said about with the flag waving in the wrong direction. And,
Yeah, that's the fella. I've seen the director's
the
cut.
one, the black and white fuzzy stuff.
That one.
Okay.
Back in the day, obviously, it's as we know, super risky. I mean, God bless them. What was it? 1991, might have been late 80s. Space shuttle blew up. Tragic, awful. Very, very risky business. Going to be an astronaut trying to push the boundaries of space.
I remember seeing the footage of that. That was, yeah.
These guys went up there in. Don't rate us on this. I mean, I'm going to go 64, 65. I'm not too sure. Went up there. No insurance company, as you can well imagine, would touch any single one of them astronauts going up on that rocket. No life insurance company can get nothing. NASA can get them insured, but you know their grandparents can get them insured.
You are building up this random fact. Go on.
No one's getting them insured anywhere.
Okay.
What they wanted to do, they wanted to make sure their family's going to be looked after.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They're going to be. They could go up. They could be brown bread.
So, okay. So they wanted to insure their family, basically.
They want to insure their families.
Okay.
So what they did, and these are clever fucking bastards for this. Clever.
Okay. Go on.
To be fair, depending on how famous we get, I might just do it tonight. They signed loads of photographs with their autograph. Hundreds of them. Hundreds of copies. They gave it to their families.
Okay, so if they died, they'll
So
go
if
down
they
in
died,
history.
and they didn't get looked after, which they probably
family's got their original-
worst happens, he's given. What an insight!
Yeah,
What
man.
an insight! Geezers are thinking about eBay 50 years before that shit has happened.
I'm sure eBay wasn't around back then, but that is genius because in no matter what context, these people would go down as like American heroes back then. And to have an original autograph by someone who's dead is priceless. And they would go down in... All the antiques dealers now would be looking out for them and they'd be mint. They'd be worth a bomb, you know it.
I saw a brief article, 30 grand pop.
What, for briefs?
A pop? No, a signature.
Oh, I thought you said a brief article, as in there was a pair of briefs that sold for $30,000.
No. 30 grand a pop for an article. Well, essentially, the random fact is that NASA wouldn't insure the astronauts they were sending up to the moon. Maybe they didn't trust their own works, so they had to insure their own family's future by signing photographs.
Nice.
And they didn't even die. Would they be worth more if they died?
Surely they'll be worth a bomb after they die of old age.
Oh, bomb.
Nice random fact. Like it.
We've had a lovely, lovely time today. Mike, wrap it up for me. What you learnt this week?
Well, this week, as we said, for me is all about basketball. NBA All-Star Weekend. Buzzing for that.
Mate, I'm still confused as whether you're, wanting to come round and play basketball, or whether you're looking to build me a fucking shed. I'm not sure. Your shoes confuse me, man. Awful. It gives me the ump just to look at them.
You done?
Done, son.
Okay. What have we learned? We've learned that if you fancy a trip round the moon, then go and make friends with a Japanese billionaire. But if you fancy operating a Mars rover, just buy a flat in Lewisham and an Xbox controller.
You will get dropped from the squad if you're trying to control Perseverance on Mars, Land Rovers, and trying to get on a zombie apocalypse at the same time. You're going to get dropped from that squad real quick. Real quick. We
also learned that you can spot all the foreigners in China because they're waddling down the street like John Wayne every fucking day. But at least you know you ain't got COVID, right? Eminem's still smashing records, but what about if Lennon and Bob Marley were still about?
Bowie would still be the overlord of everyone. Don't matter.
Okay. Smacking kids, is it right or wrong?
I mean, that's down to the individual parent to decide that, but I'm going to the fact that if I see Dave crawling along that floor, walking over a blood socket, I'm going to give that geezer a little bit of a clip.
What, like your headmaster used to do, give you the old milkshake and smash you up against a chalkboard?
Nothing wrong with my generation.
Or smash them up just for a fucking pillar.
When you come to the end of the line with a buddy who is more than a brother and a little less than a wife, getting blind drunk together is really the only way to say farewell.
Au revoir. Auf Wiedersehen. Ciao. Ding dong day.
That's all, folks.
Good night, everybody. Good night, Mama. Good night, Ben. Good night, everyone.
Blaze 2, get at me in the morning.
Bye-bye